Hello my friends, Devaun Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, we'll cover the main highlight features and do an overview of DJI's FPV. Do know you can find timestamps and links in the description down below, as well as the pinned comment. And also know this is not a sponsored video. Let's get started. Released in the spring of 2021, the DJI FPV marks the company's first FPV drone. FPV, or first-person view, is a quickly growing trend across the industry and one that's been on the up and coming over the recent years. And with this release, the Chinese tech giant hops into the party with its first foray. DJI is a long-standing, highly rated manufacturer in the drone space, known for its reliability, quality, and safety features. And their products have opened the world of aerial imaging to creators not brave enough to embark on helicopter flights. But this release brings the company into new territories, and they're doing so betting on making FPV more simple, practical, and accessible. Technically, the DJI FPV sits between the Mavic 2 Pro and the higher-end Phantom 4 series drones, but rather than tuning it towards aerial imaging like these drones, this drone is focused strictly on the flying experience, and it's built for speed, performance, and utmost agility. And it does so with a fully immersive experience, perfect for those who enjoy the thrill of piloting firsthand. On paper, it offers several highlight points, namely it has a class-leading battery range, superior video transmission technology, outstanding speed, and the convenience of a ready-to-fly system. But the FB community is filled with hardcore loyalists who praise power, low latency, and responsiveness, not to mention a crowd who's accustomed to the headaches involved with making custom self-built drones themselves. So how does DJI's high-end offering compare to equivalent models, much less those a third its price? Physically, over recent years, DJI's pioneered and focused exclusively on the folding design of their Mavic lineup, but this aircraft departs from that design. Instead, it sports a traditional fixed-wing quadcopter design with a sleek void gray finish, accentuated with a clear plastic housing. And DJI is concentrated on aerodynamics, namely propulsion, wind resistance, and battery life. They've also installed a large capacity battery at the rear, making the entire fuselage angle downwards about 30 degrees. Lastly, in the center, you'll find the camera mounted on a single axis gimbal, which is arguably delicate given the rough nature of FPV acrobatics, but it's in a suitable location nonetheless that will not likely damage easily. Otherwise, the aircraft weighs 795 grams with the battery installed, making it marginally lighter than the Mavic 2 Pro, and compared to most FPV drones, it's slightly heavier, though it's relatively small and compact, and it broadly matches the Air 2 in this regard. However, the fixed wing design, wide stance, and upright body make it appear larger than it is, and also doesn't help in its general portability. In its design, the key is it comes pre-assembled and ready to fly out of the box. Most consumer FPV drones are typically separate purchases where you find elements of the kits from various manufacturers, and pilots then have to combine multiple elements to create the final product. Often, this requires in-depth knowledge of parts, assembly, and soldering. Instead, DJI is focused on simplicity. Now, there's no need to build the drone yourself, perform calibrations, or understand frequency transmissions. Thus, it becomes the first truly plug-and-play entry into this particular segment in this particular space. And it's action-ready from the get-go. As such, it's more beginner-friendly in this regard, and now FPV is not the exclusive lure to only professional pilots, so it also becomes a stark contrast to the standards in the segment. Even so, DJI's made the design modular so pilots can replace various components when needed. These include the gimbal camera, landing gear, and the drone's top shell. So if damages occur, you can quickly repair the device in these areas as needed. Otherwise, it features a built-in micro SD card slot. It has an auxiliary bottom light. It features color customizable front LEDs and aircraft arm lights, and the combo kit comes with an extra housing and propellers. It features a 12 megapixel 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor, which is similar to the Mavic Mini 2, and it shoots 4K 60 frames per second or 1080p 120 frames per second video to the MP4 or MOV formats via either H.264 or H.265 compression at a maximum data rate of 120 megabits per second. While for stills, the camera produces 12 megapixel JPEG images. The drone also features a 14.6mm equivalent lens with an f2.8 aperture, providing an ultra-wide 150-degree field of view, which matches a GoPro, but it does have a fisheye effect. Thankfully, you can add distortion correction via the menus, which removes its impact, and DJI's enabled this option by default. This camera configuration is also stabilized on the tilt or vertical axis, while it has an electronically stabilized roll axis with DJI's rock-steady stabilization taken from the Osmo Action. And the camera also obtains the D-Cine Light profile, which shoots flatter videos that offer more flexibility for post-processing. For battery, it features a 2000 mAh intelligent flight battery, and DJI rates the drone to provide up to 20 minutes of flight time at 25 miles per hour in windless conditions. Sure, this seems relatively short if you're familiar with their Mavic lineup, but it's the opposite. Typical FPV drones only offer 3 to 10 minutes per flight, depending on their size. As such, this is a substantial improvement over the competition, and this becomes a key selling point over its rivals. When it comes to packages for this particular drone, you have several options. You can get this drone alone without any controllers, or you can opt for a combo package. But for this particular release, we'd recommend getting the combo in this case, as it will be more cost effective. And the accessories DJI manufactures for this drone are necessities, so a combo is unfortunately the only way to go here. With the combo, you'll get the new FPV goggles and the updated flight controller. DJI has also created an optional motion controller, which is a paid-for accessory. The V2 goggles, first introduced in 2020, now feature OcuSync 3.0 connectivity, DJI's proprietary transmission system. It also has built-in high-gain antennas, comprising of 3 transmitters and 4 receivers. Combined, the drone can transmit a clear HD video transmission up to 6.2 miles away. And version 3 of this interface also reduces the transmission latency, which is now 28 milliseconds. Additionally, it also provides a higher bitrate of 50 megabits per second. During flight, the drone also automatically switches between 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz bands, ensuring that bitrate remains consistent. And the image transmission technology here is a key selling point over rivals, as most use analog transmission, which doesn't support similarly long distances or ranges at such quality. Otherwise, the goggles have dual 2-inch screens, each with a resolution of 810p for a large crystal clear video feed that's entirely stutter-free. It also has buttons on the top right plate to navigate the menu, change the camera or flight settings, and start recordings, and there's also a micro SD card, ensuring you retain footage even if the drone is lost during an accident. The second accessory is the FPV flight controller. This one is new and it's more compact than the Mavic range, and it's about half the size of most controllers in the segment. Even so, previous DJI pilots will find that it follows a broadly similar design. The main difference is that it removes the cradle for the smartphone, and instead DJI's added more shoulder buttons, so now it provides immediate access to all key features like return home, gimbal pitch, flight modes, emergency brake and hover, which is new, a customizable button, and a shutter release. And all of these buttons are large and easily accessible by feel alone. The controller also features a cubby to store the control sticks when not in use. Lastly, you can also get the optional motion controller that resembles a flight joystick, but this controller lets you fly the drone by merely moving your hand around the air, and it gives the aircraft maneuvering abilities that mimic your natural hand motions. It's quite an innovative product to the market and a first from DJI, but it brings a new experience to flying, and it's a good option for beginners. In the air, the FPV is relatively easy to fly and quite reassuring, even in force 7 winds of 30 miles per hour, and is surely a notable upgrade from traditional drones, which are self-built, unwieldy, and easy to crash in this regard. DJI has leveraged their existing expertise from the Mavic lineup to produce this particular product, and it's ready to fly for beginners and professional pilots right out of the box. No installation or soldering needed, merely charge up everything and you're ready to hit the skies. And in the skies, this drone is agile, responsive, and insanely fast. The first-person view is also uniquely immersive compared to traditional drones, but outside of that, this drone also features the viewfinder mark, which marks your launch point at all times with a bright H on screen. DJI has equipped the drone with an emergency safety mechanism called emergency brake and hover, which stops the drone's motion and hovers with a single button press. And they've also included some automatic return home features. The drone also has forward and downward facing obstacle avoidance sensors. It has ADS-B technology, and it features the new audience mode for the goggles. In the end, DJI's FPV represents an exciting release that solves many of the critical headaches with FPV flying. Namely, it offers longer flight times, superior video transmission, and gradual difficulty levels, all in a complete ready-to-fly system. And it's quite an interesting option for those wanting to experience FPV without the headaches and steep learning curve often involved. Now you can share in this world for yourself without the discouragements of learning mechanical skills. But ultimately, the DJI FPV is a niche product, and sure, it brings much of the user-friendliness from their Mavic lineup to a new space, but it doesn't match this lineup in general features, build quality, and value for money. So whether it's a good option for your workflow will likely depend on whether the convenience in FPV is worth it to you. But with that said though, it's an excellent release as a first generation product, and it does solve many of the key headaches involved with this style of flying. So good on DJI for moving into a new space and reinventing the wheel in this regard. So there you have it, my friends. There are the highlights in the overview of DJI's FPV. For more information on the FPV, check out our website, photographypx.com, and there you will see a full detailed written review, as well as other reviews that may be of interest to you. You can also look at the pinned comment in the description down below, and I'll take you right to the full review as well. I've been your host, Devaun Lennox. We will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found the contents of today's video insightful and it added value to you. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Also, leave us a like and a comment in the description down below. Let us know if we overlooked something or we missed something that we covered in today's video. I've been your host, Devaun Lennox. Photography.